I mean, that's very true. This is it. But when you're pushing people into a corner, you never know what they're going to bring out. But it does seem that so far, same old, no variation in the bans whatsoever. But there are still 2 bans left up for both teams to make adaptation.
And of course, with H2K coming out with that second wind, it's really the onus on Splyce to adapt.
Yeah, I really don't want to see a Sivir ban here because I feel like then the first rotation, I imagine, will be like Tahm, Kench. Okay, so Talia's out.
So do we see the instant RekSai first pick here from H2K? They're really taking their time now. This has, of course, changed the landscape now that Talia is banned away.
It's a good one.
That wasn't intentional.
I think they definitely go for RekSai first pick here.
Has to be, yeah.
They maybe think about Tahm, Kench early too.
Because the alternative option then for Splyce is you go Gnar, Tahm, Kench. And so if
but then the Gangplank still works. So like it's so hard to figure this out.
It's very true.
Trying to run through all scenarios in my head, but it's so picky, and it reminds me of one of the reasons why I retired, so I can just be like, oh yes, of course they're doing it this reason.
As we predicted, there's the
RekSai first pick. 1 of 3.
Based on history, this would be Gnar, Tahm, Kench here. But obviously the Sivir's open, that's what we're all forgetting.
But then do we see the Tahm, Kench, Ashe return? Because, I mean, the pick potential from the Ashe onto the Sivir, she does have the spell shield, you have the slight push advantage during the 2 versus 2. In terms of utility, you could argue that Tsepha has the slight advantage because her ult has a couple more uses in which you can apply it. But it's a tough one to call. Like, do you want to pick the Tahm, Kench into the Sivir now that you know what the AD carry is?
And of course, with the top laner already locked in on the side of Splyce, H2K really have time here. They can mull over this Gangplank pick if they want to opt for it again. They can look to secure something with a greater priority. They really have unlimited time to choose when that Gangplank is going to come through for them, because
they also know that they're going to have to blind pick mid, so they might as well do it early since Rio is such a force on Vladimir. I mean, we could see a game with maybe a Lucian pick coming back here into the Sivir matchup. So like, Tahm, Kench taken away early, comfort pick gone. Taric is okay, but doesn't seem like a Spice pick. This could be a Tahm, Kench with a later Lucian, unless if Mikyx right now doesn't lock in a range support, Forgiven may pick up the Lucian himself again.
Also, the Malzahar would have actually been a good pick into the Vladimir, even though he did experience some nerfs on 615. I still personally believe that he is a strong champion that works very nicely into the Vlad, but with the Tahm, Kench pick, that's going to make the use of Malzahar actually very difficult for Sencux.
And of course, it's the same situation we saw from the series earlier today from LCK with Talia and Aurelion Sol banned off the board. Malzahar and Vlad became the premier picks.
And this is why I just love best of 5s, because you can see these players just, they're starting to reveal their hovers too, because they don't have time to like wait for the final lock, and they need to discuss this within a minute. Pressure's mounting. They obviously know they're going to play Gragas. Surprise, surprise. And
there's the Malzahar. So it does a good job into the Vladimir, but as we were just discussing, into the Tahm, Kench, this is actually a really rough mid-game and late game, because whichever target you focus, the Tahm, Kench is just going to be there to gobble them up. You're going to have to focus front lines. You can't bother trying to kill this battle. You can't go for those flank engages. Your sole goal as a Malzahar in this game has to be to either kill the Tahm, Kench or to kill the RekSai.
Yeah, but at least now with the on the hunt, Splyce can go quicker from aggressive to defensive. You know, that was one of their main strengths in the last game. Let's see, what's he gonna be? Forgiven.
Ashe.
Ashe to Sivir, Gragas. Ashe. I think it's gonna be Lucian.
Because they're not gonna go Tristana into the Sivir in this situation. They don't need the additional siege either.
Unless his AD carry is lagging.
I wanted to pick Twitch, but I misclicked onto Tristana.
Have to see what they opt for. Looks like it will be the Ashe.
He does go for it. It's bold. He's really trusting in Vander's Devour here.
While it will be difficult to lock down that Malzahar courtesy of that passive, GP has a pretty easy time at any stage of the game just avoiding that Malzahar ultimate. And it's going to be really hard to lock down these carries. Ashe the only vulnerable member, and she's got a Tahm, Kench there to back her up.
You could make things worse and go for a sign for guaranteed engage. But it is unlike this. It's just something that Mikyx likes to hover. In terms of support picks, Braum is likely going to be the pick for Splyce because it's just safe. Sivir, Braum doesn't really have many bad matchups, and in Axe is great disengage. But we're going to be in a similar situation for Splyce that they had in Game 2. They will have a little bit more teamfight damage with the Malzahar, but they're still going to struggle in terms of the side lanes.
Yeah, Braum or Taric here. Or you could switch up entirely. It's not something we used to see really from Mikyx. But they have double frontline already. They're going for the traditional Sivir Karma lane, which used to be, honestly, a lane that people lane swap away from. Ooh.
Very powerful lane, and of course, while Mikyx may not be his go-to pick, he's got the 5-1 record on it. Overall, powerhouse. But this is, of course, the karma of old. She
And
received
with
a
the
lot
Ignite.
of nerfs.
Also, this opens up for interesting gank paths. You know, if you want to take down Vander, who maybe not super experienced on Tahm Kench, he could die to a level 3 gank from Trashy in a similar fashion. You know, imagine Karma skills QW rather, and you get onto the Tahm Kench, you have the Ignite going on. He doesn't have great health before level 3. Like, it is an option.
I'd love to see some early ganks from Trashy, but throughout this series, that is not something that we have commented on this player for. He has not really been, other than that one gank that we did see up in the top lane, he really hasn't been really exerting himself very much in the early game. Hopefully they change things up coming into Game 4, because they really do need to change up their playstyle if they want to keep their hopes alive of that final in Krakow.
Putting a little bit more on strength in the early laning phase on the side of Splyce. This is kind of what I like to see, because we've consistently seen very strong level 1 play from Splyce, almost getting that first blood, almost getting a little bit more, of course, small sidesteps here and there from H2K saving them. But if they're not careful, it's a bot lane you have to respect.
Yeah, but I'm liking the draft adaptations here from Probably. Final handshake possibly here as we approach a potential match point for H2K here. And what a surprise, really, from a struggling team throughout the regular season, you know, going against the ever so surging Splyce here. They went like 16-2 in the last 18 games or something, at least 14-2. And they were doing so well, but then this meta shift onto 615 seems to have left them strangled, and H2K honestly powering up in this series.
Gearing up for Game 4 as we get in here. Teams leaving the base. Splyce, such a huge story of success for them thus far. From promotion tournament to playoffs in a single split. But it could all end here.
Ah, Sencux. Look at it, the nerves are coming in. You get a trinket when you leave the base, but don't get a Doran's ring. That's why all these pro players have wrist issues, by the way.
Look up.
Because they waste unnecessary clicks on buying the trinket. You actually get it for free when you leave the base.
Really?
Yeah.
So Freeze would be playing for H2K right now if he had just clicked Trinket a few less times.
Yeah. Fact. That's savage, dude. What the hell? This guy's in the building. Come on.
Nah. Wasn't like that. Just poking some holes in your medical advice there, Krepo.
Hey, man. Efficient APM is what you're aiming for. All right, no level 1 shenanigans. Double ward use. Ooh. 2 wards used from bot lane, from H2K at minute 1, which means their entire stretch from 2:15, or well, kind of 2:05 until 3:05, they will have 0 wards available, because trinkets will still be on cooldown.
And if you're Splyce, you want to go for the invade here because you have the range support. It's far more advantageous for you to just interrupt the early level Krogs, and because that ward's going to disappear, H2K might not be able to read this play.
Yeah, no, it'll be on time. Like, the ward is there to block. It'll last until 2:05, that's why it's placed. But you could do the most dirty proxy ever if you go at like 142. He's checking it with respect. If you get them off the Krogs right now and you walk into lane, this is like, nobody cares about this, but I love this play. You could actually proxy them from actually getting access.
A little bit of poke here.
They're not taking the greedy route. You could actually poke them away and keep them off experience if you stand behind the enemy creeps, but it's such a risky play to do.
This will still give Splyce the shove, though, which is typically what you want when you have the range advantage. You can poke down onto Vander and make his life difficult.
They will always have the shove, but more importantly, they have the controlled shove, which means they can just stay 1 creep up and don't hit any more creeps. And every time Forgiven gets close, or Vander, you just punish with poke. And you want to win the sustain war.
Exactly where they want to be for Splyce. They're not making over-aggressive moves, but they are taking steps to come out on top in the laning phase. Got to keep in mind, this is their first playoff series. A lot of pressure on them individually. Jankos is on the bottom side, and Kobbe is moving forward to get aggressive. He knows he has the level 2. Massive advantage. Forgiven in trouble. No level 2 for Vander.
And that is exactly why Sivir Karma is such a strong lane, and exactly why you never do camp as Sivir Karma. You go to stop them because you abuse your range advantage, and they need to call in the support crew from Jankos here, who has the same similar path. He even warded his own blue buff to see what Trashy is doing. But because Jankos has to kind of influence his lane, Trashy also gets access to a blue buff early, doesn't clear Raptors, you know, immediately going for 2 buff and Krugs combined. Now they're fighting over Scuttle Crab in River.
And only the single buff for Jankos as well. A little bit of a trade of blows there. We're going to have to see who got away with the Scuttle Crab. That's a pretty decent difference, and Trashy takes control.
But it wouldn't be forgiven if you wouldn't be up 6 CS despite being poked down. This guy is an absolute monster. This should not be possible. Kobbe and Mikyx blow up so much CS trying to poke him off the wave, And this guy's up 5 CS. This is honestly incredibly impressive.
Taking control of the early laning phase, and it's a similar story for Ryu in the mid lane as he pushes in. And yes, Splyce look to have the pressure advantage, at least on the top and bottom side, but they have to keep up in CS or these advantages will not mean anything.
Look at Vander, true support, you know, throwing himself in there just for a single piece of range creep CS.
Now, as exciting as this bot lane matchup is, we have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is not in fact a bot lane stream. There are other lanes. And so what you'll see early on in the mid lane is Ryu actually having the push advantage, because Malzahar, he has to make a decision whether or not he decides to expend his mana on trading back and forth, or whether or not he expends his mana on clearing the minion wave. And when it's a Vladimir, you really have to prioritize on just dealing with this minion wave that's constantly being pushed underneath your turret. Once he hits level 5 to level 6, level 7, that's when Ryu can't play as aggressively as he wants. And it's interesting that Sencux is actually making the decision to trade more onto Ryu and just getting a little bit more pressure in the lane rather than just get the shove on. And this is just a slight adaptation that you will see between Malzahars as to whether or not they go for regular trading or whether or not they go for the early push. And because he has the teleport, he can now just go back, come back to lane, and this is really where you'll start to see the push go in favor of the match.
Yeah, that's the way you break teleport matchups. You wait until you're about 25 CS in or something. Level 5, you base, you get an extra Doran's Ring, maybe boost, and you just come back. And you keep the guy locked down on their tower. You say, you know what, you have a Ghost, that's nice, they're fighting, but you're just going to have to farm under turret all day. Problem is, Ryu just got so much CS early.
Yeah.
He's up 13 CS because there was some bad RNG on the Malzahar bounces, but still, you know, Ryu, fantastic job locking down at CS on curve with Forgiven. Usually you just look at like 10 CS per minute, etc. to gauge if somebody's CSing well. I just look at Forgiven's number and see if somebody matches it.
Ryu, a little bit behind, but definitely a decent pace.
Sexy handoff. The TP Gangplank into blue buff. What a combo.
We wanted to see adaptation in the series. H2K are bringing it to the table.
TP on tunnel to steal blue buff from your jungle.
That was nice.
Jankos bending the knee.
I like the supportive playstyle, showing he can both be the first blood king. And,
What's a king to a Gangplank god, you know? Wunder's gonna be like, what? This guy TP's back lane and his blue buff? Come on.
Not what he wanted at all.
I actually think Odo's set up a pretty of an awkward freeze as well, because where the lane is, it's not quite underneath the turret. And on top of that, Odo has the blue buff, and he can be as aggressive as he wants now because he effectively has unlimited mana. So this is a great setup for Odo right now.
Basically living in a fruit store, unlimited oranges. And the wave is parked in a really good spot, just like you said.
You do realize that the fruit doesn't come from the store, right? You have to grow it, plant, and that's where the fruit comes from.
I don't know, man. I walk to the store, I get my orange.
It's the only part of the process that matters to Krepo. Everything else is visible.
Yep.
Moving in on the jungle. Trashy playing a lot more aggressive this time around. 5 CS up in the jungle, as well as throwing down some of that early vision, trying to limit the impact of Jankos.
And Sencux with the second Doran's Ring and the fact that it becomes much more easier for him to chain bounce prolific visions and getting mana back every time it does. Keeps the lockdown onto Ryu on the tower and is actually equalizing the CS quite well.
Of course, as we push forward as well, these blue buffs get donated over to Sencux. It only gets easier to push in. But the bottom side, the early advantage Kobbe and Mikyx worked hard to create, steadily drifting away.
And we were talking the entire split. Kobbe, Mikyx, aside from Sven and Mithy, you know, top 2 bot lane. But Forgiven and Vander clearly showing up here, showing that despite having an abysmal level 1 gauge, that shouldn't be enough.
Staring contest comes in, Ryu walking it out. Silence not going to connect, he's just going to pull the safety.
That was actually really smart from Sencux, but he might regret it as Jankos comes in.
Passive.
Oh. All right, so a couple cool things happen there. The first one is that Jankos threw out the Prey Seeker. He knew that there was a 0.25 second window, and that he just had to wait until after that. He timed it so that the knockup would be just after that window, but unfortunately it was an ever so slight mistiming, so that as the knockup came out, that was when Sencux passive wore off. But on top of that, the reason why Sencux was able to force Ryu back was because the initial Malefic Vision hit, he then had all the Voidlings, he threw out the ultimate, and then he was able to get a second Malefic Vision afterwards. And if he was able to land the silence, that likely would have been a kill down onto Ryu. But fortunately, he had the pull up and he was able to get away. So really nice setup there from Sencux to maximize his damage output.
Really hoping to refresh that duration. But while Trashy may have a lead in the jungle, and while Sencux may look comfortable trading in mid, the CS continues to go in the favor of H2K. Ryu up by a decent margin, and Forgiven keeping that lead at 10 despite the fact that Kobbe is the one currently pushing in the wave.
Look at this rotation too. Odo going aggro on top, being down teleport, and Jankos, the farm alarm rings. It's actually third siege alarm. I love this. You know, the fact this playing into range support, getting first base on a good item spike, and then rotating for turret pressure. H2K is completely dominating this early game, and a lot of it stems from this Vander Forgiven lane exceeding expectations here in this matchup.
Kobbe and Mikyx finally making their way to the top side. They are going to back off a decent amount here, although there's a lot of creeps here. They're going to get a decent amount of damage once again, and Wunder already getting harassed under the tower, but they've got a man advantage on the top side, or at least that's how it looks to Splyce, because Jankos is here and he's ready.
Thing is, if you're Splyce, you have to match the swap because of the Gangplank ultimate. If you try and make the same play in the bottom side, that GP ult is just going to come out and just deny that push. So this is smart from Splyce. It will put them, or it will maintain this difference that you have between the two AD carries, but it was still a nice response coming out from Splyce.
Once again, both teams tempering aggression, but H2K still appear to be in the driver's seat. It's not just CS leads, they are the ones making the proactive moves. And Krepo, as you said, the bottom lane, kind of the ones leading the charge here on the side of H2K.
Yeah. Honestly, when I saw 18 CS versus 12, I was just flabbergasted. It should never happen. And now Odo walking to Trashy. This is big actually for this game.
Happen. Looking for the knockback, is going to get it. Odo is in trouble. It looks like he is now set to fall. Will drop to Wunder. First blood.
Oh, and that is beautiful house of cards that H2K was building with the potential deny on the swaps with the GP ulti. You know, the scaling, it is all tumbling down right now because Trashy finds an opening finally.
And this is what Splyce wanted in Game 3. They couldn't find it for themselves, but they're going to get it in Game 4. Odo, with the rotation into the bottom lane, he did not have the vision. The wave was already pushing towards Splyce's half of the map. Trashy read it, and he's able to punish the overstep from Odoamne, giving Wunder the kill. Now, Jankos, is trying to respond.
Maybe looking for the knockup. Should be able to get it onto Wunder here. Knocks him up, gets down a decent amount of damage. Red buff is ticking. Jankos not going to chase, but Odo looking for the double proc.
So close.
Odo's Roger not going to be looking so jolly in this matchup right now, as he is already down in farm, yet to complete that Trinity Force. But he's still on track to get that 13-minute mark, just like he did in Game 3.
I wonder if Wunder's just going to walk back and they're going to use the teleport advantage. Because right now, a play is forming in the heads of Splyce. They have the mid laner that can always force push. They have a jungler that can then group up with that mid laner and walk top. And they usually have a 2v2 in the top lane that can control where the wave is being parked. So there is a potential push mid, group, and roam to top with teleport advantage from Wunder for a play in the top lane. The only counter is a well-placed GPLT. Sencux, is he going to start pushing? No, he trades.
Oh, ult going in. Voidlings are down. They're spawning. They're dealing decent damage to Ryu. Pool not out yet, though. Just a lot of harass. Sencux using the ult to take control of the mid lane.
But it's momentum.
Look at Jankos trying to set up for a gank in the top lane. Forgiven does have his arrow.
Kobbe backing out. Arrow not going to connect. Good spell shield.
Ooh, I feel like that Karma Shield looked like a spell shield for a second. And he
I thought he was going to get stunned.
He gave Forgiven some hope. And now Jankos, Wunder, all the names except the one I need. Trashy. Trashy's joining top right now. Forgiven spoke. There's teleport advantage on Wunder. This game's looking really good for Splyce right now if they can make this play happen. Push in mid lane as well.
Yes, Sencux, he's setting up for the roam up top. Splyce may very well be able to get themselves this first blood tower in the top lane, but remember that the Gangplank ultimate is available if they want to stymie this push.
And they need to. We've seen how important tower first blood can be, but the wave actually not big enough. Patience from Odoamne is the right choice as Vander. That is a ridiculous animation, but he's happy to deliver Forgiven back to lane.
He was just like, ah.
That's exactly what he was doing. But now we see what happens if you don't take the tower down and you try for it anyways. You may lose your turret yourself because right now they have to base. They don't have a Tahm Kench is beautifully animated.
Snare coming in, knock back into the team. Trashy looking to make this a kill pickup. Vander running out of options. Forgiven has to back off.
And this is the only way how Splyce do not lose their tower unless they would have expended Wunder's teleport is a greedy move from Vander. Because H2K was looking to solidify honestly the overextension of Splyce going for the turret to get a turret themselves, but they wanted too much at once. Vander getting caught.
The only reason why I could see Vander doing that is he had expected Splyce to already back. He realized that they were backing away from the turret. They needed to go to base. They needed to pick up their items, and he felt like that he was in a safe enough position to make that play. Unfortunately, he doesn't respect it, and he ends up giving away his life for it.
He just didn't expect it, the turnaround. Usually when you cancel bases, you cancel one, walk out, but Trashy was there, and then the move steroid coming out from that Sivir ulti, completely changing up expectations here. Really beautiful back and forth so far.
Absolutely, and this series has been a story of small mistakes, and right now it is H2K who is making the small mistakes. They need to tighten up the gameplay. Cannot afford to give away a tower here. Cannot afford another losing lane.
Yeah, I wonder if Forgiven's actually going to run bot here. Maybe go for that reverse swap, because Wunder is slowly edging out in this matchup. They still have the Cannon Barrage for a swap play, but he's just going to run top. Teleport advantage is almost nullified here. Wunder used it somewhere, probably to get back to the lane. So it's actually H2K with a teleport advantage in about 20 seconds from now. Oh, so many plays could form potentially.
TP mid from the Malzahar, just going back to balance out the pressure. A little bit of damage down on the tower, but nothing significant. Really, waiting for a move to come out here on the side of Splyce, because you can see the pressure advantage really paying off for them. Keep your eyes on Jankos. Once again, it's going to be his story this game, looking for where he's going to apply that pressure.
Thing is, right now for H2K is they once again have a scaling composition, just like we saw in Game 3. And in terms of the early game, they're not at a massive deficit. So things still on track for their mid game. Working towards those item spikes they so heavily rely on. The Gangplank Trinity Force has now been completed. The Infinity Edge going to be slightly delayed for Forgiven. Likely that he will try and get that early Ruined Hurricane, but still, it's going to be stymied a little bit more. Meanwhile, for Kobbe, he's completed his Essence Reaver. Sencux, he's completed his Morale and Omicron. So Splyce currently have the item advantage, and that's why H2K, they're going to be slowing down in their aggression, because they have to be very aware of these item spikes picked up for Splyce.
H2K's going aggro on top with Ryu and base. So they're playing around the TP advantage from Odoamne if they tight Wunder's TP well, but they can't really push the map because it's... While there's action on top, you can only really pressure map if you have all members playing actively on that map at the same time. So when somebody's in base, it's really hard to make something happen. Even though he's like not even close usually to the action, they all influence each other. Similar to how in the last game, like Odoamne died on the turret while his team was making the play top, you know? Like it was full HP. People were like, but how's he overextending? You know, he's standing on his tower and full health and he got ganked. Well, that is the way like map pressure works.
Sometimes the tower is not enough to save you, and it's not going to be for much longer on the top side. 600 health left for Splyce's tower, about 1,200 left for H2K. One more play on the top side, and those towers will drop. It's going to come down to a single fight or a single macro advantage here.
A little collapse looking here. H2K using that push to kind of escort Trashy into position.
We're at the 60-minute mark, and Splyce, while they have been able to punish some of the aggression from H2K, we're yet to see any further moves to Sencux. He needs to be careful from Jankos.
Well, Jankos flashes in, not even giving him the chance. Cannon Barrage comes in. Ryu is on the way. Ult comes in from Sencux. He wants to deny Ryu the opportunity, but he drops. That's going to be the kill back for H2K. Trashy is next on the list. Wunder is here on the backside. Trashy trying to make it to safety. Prayseeker going to get him in the end, but Jankos delivers himself to the waiting hands of Kobbe. Arrow comes in. Spell shield perfectly from Kobbe. Ryu now set to fall. Double kill for Splyce.
The super speedy reaction on the hunt and Karma speed up being used, and right now it's a race for time for the 2v2 in the top lane to get re-established before Forgiven takes the turret, and somebody needs to take care of this Gangplank. Yes, it's only 2-for-2 kill trade, but all these turrets are at risk of being taken down.
They're not going to push for it. Kobbe and Mikyx are going to make it up in time. It's just going to be a trade of tower damage once again, but the gold is almost even, only 400 difference.
See, I wonder if it was worth for Forgiven to just die for that turret.
Yeah.
I think it would almost make sense.
Goal would have been so valuable, but we're going to see a replay of this setup onto Sencux, and it was actually really smart. Not even entirely sure why Sencux was pathing his way up through that part of the jungle, but it was just, the overall setup was great coming out from Splyce, because the response time, notice that Kobbe and Mikyx had the push in the top half of the map. That means that they could immediately start rotating down, as now Odo getting collapsed.
We've seen this play before. Odo locked up. Odo knocked out once again, but Wunder potentially in trouble.
Forgiven's looking at the turret though, and the Splyce bot lane is rotating bot, so they're trading sides of the map for the first turret goes. Forgiven's gonna take it, and he's gonna walk away.
Massive bonus.
Give me the money, Forgiven says.
Gonna lead it up. Jankos now in trouble, trying to get Wunder. Wunder skipping out of town. They're gonna pick that up on a killing spree as he picks up that red buff. They're gonna get the tower back.
The thing is, Splyce have a numbers advantage. They can keep the push going, but H2K have said, hey, we're gonna challenge that push by just going for this mid-tier one. Splyce are gonna be forced to respond.
Super explosive action across the board here. Action means reaction. And a couple layers of that went through here. Splyce decisively committing to one side of the map. H2K being happy with the first turret gold. But Kobbe right now, while losing his matchup early, is up 3 kills. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Forgiven didn't really want to sacrifice himself. Not want to give that Sivir access to a 4th kill. And while yes, H2K have late game, if there's one AD carry that can so influence late game teamfights, it is a Sivir that is fed.
And bear in mind, Wunder now, he's at 3-0-2, already completed both of his big items. And this is where you're really going to start to see Odoamne struggle, because in game 3, Odo had such a good early game where he was able to get the early kill down onto Wunder. They had the early towers, they just had more gold. But now with the spike going in favor of Wunder, you're really going to see why Pirates hate fighting Yord.
That's a new one, Vedius. I haven't heard that one before. But as we see Ryu get aggressive in the mid lane, we got to look at Odo. He's participated in 100% of the kills. The cannon barrage has been key here from H2K, but he has been biting the bullet in the individual matchup. The 40 CS deficit, and you can see 2-6 the kill score as a 2K gold lead starts to develop for Splyce.
A bit problematic here though for Splyce. Leaving Sencux in the side lanes, so risky here. Oh, he's respecting the dive though here. Really being careful against his Tahm Kench ultimate.
And this is exactly what you brought up earlier, Krepo, where even though you're underneath the turret, you can still be considered overextending. So you have to be careful, and really good awareness from Sencux, noticing that there's so much pressure in the top half.
But Odoamne also learned his lesson from last game. This time he's no longer lurking at the tower. He just backs off and lets Cannon Barrage clear the minions for him.
Oh, Trashy looking for a way out of the jungle. Oh, they're going to have to back out as well. Odo throwing out some shots, but Gnar just a bit too tanky.
Yeah, Splyce is holding right now because they're waiting for bot lane pressure from Sencux. Once that wave is pushing, they're going to peel off Sencux or either TP him in. And H2K is looking for make this.
Not waiting as long as we thought as Wunder starts to get aggressive. Hyper, that proc was massive. Jankos now taking so much damage. Wunder, he doesn't even care. He's going for more. Double kill. He'll gladly trade his life for that. Style play from the Splyce top laner.
Yeah, show your little paws in the air like you just don't care. Wunder, 2 more kills. 5-1-2 right now. Taking bets on potentially getting the MVP.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yordles versus Pirates. That's exactly what happens when you've got 2 axes in your inventory. This is so good for Wunder, getting so much pressure down in Splyce. They just want to keep it going.
Want to keep the ball rolling. As you said, TP comes in mid lane. Sencux now looking to siege up this mid lane tower, and H2K aren't even going to be able to approach Splyce, extend their lead, looking at 3K.
Yeah, it honestly was an outplay from Splyce because they were setting up the push in the bot lane, which means they were playing the remainder of the map with 4 members. H2K was trying to make advantage of that by playing 5v4 and going aggressive, but they completely underestimated just how fed Wunder's Gnar was. And he just adds a couple of kills to that list.
And it's just deceptive damage at this stage. You don't think you're taking that much, but the Hyper just dealing so much of the maximum health and unable to get away in those exchanges. Jankos and Odoamne have to be wondering how they let this happen. But 5-1-2 now the score. It only gets easier for Wunder as we move forward.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up, Tsepha, because when we look back, it was Trashy that was able to get that first kill down, even though the bottom lane was just not going in favor of Splyce. The fact that Trashy could set up for that early kill onto Wunder, get him ahead in the 1 versus 1, is really where things started to go in the favor of Splyce. And even though H2K were making good map movements, it was always Splyce responding and consistently coming out ahead.
Splyce responding very well. They also have the comfort of their mid lane turret still alive here, which means they just feel a lot safer controlling the center of the map and spreading out. Really trying to put that 1-3-1 to use, but it's hard right now because Sencux can play on the side lane. But it's not Ghost Malzahar, which gets caught up very easily himself now. Teleport on cooldown, so Splyce kind of have a hard time deciding who gets mid priority here. They're giving it all to Kobbe, but it might mean that Sencux will slowly fall behind because he gets access to way less wave. Look at where he's walking, base to Krugs. He's super scared to commit to top lane. If he does, he's so far away from his team. So this may pose a little bit of a threat here for Splyce's macro.
Backing off.
They gave the red buff over to Jankos, actually. Perhaps they just want a bit of extra damage if they go for the 2v1 against Wunder.
Are they going to be able to get it? Hops out of the cannon barrage. That's perfect. Is he going to look for more? Throws them back, just looking for the disengage, buying time. Sencux does not have pressure on the top side. A cheeky auto for the side.
This guy still has flash.
Double wall up.
He still has flash available. This guy's toying with his opponents right now, refusing to flash out.
He is using his own name. Hey guys, I wonder where all your damage went, because it's certainly on me. So impressive the way in which he is outplaying his opponents. And he's just drawing so much focus as well. That has enabled Sencux to feel so much more comfortable in going to this top lane. He's already set up the push, and now you see the rest of Splyce gaining vision in the top half of H2K.
It all started with Trashy being topside to enable Sencux to push. Jankos read that play and went for a botside gank, which honestly was correctly executed. Like, it was the right play, but they just got outplayed by Wunder. It was an opportunistic Gangplank ulti, hoping that maybe Jankos could interrupt the jump from Wunder, but the timing was just frame perfect here. Outplayed them completely. Splyce keeping control here, and now they have the push in top lane, which means Wunder can peel off soon and either siege top or group in mid.
And I like the fact that Wunder has actually decided to work towards the Warden's Mail as well, because when he gets that Randuin's completed, it's going to significantly mitigate this big crit damage that the Gangplank has as well, which is just going to make this 1 versus 1 matchup all the more worse for the side of H2K. Based on what we've seen so far, I think we're going to go to a Game 5, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, a strong start from Splyce thus far, but we have to keep in mind the scaling Gangplank was crucial for H2K's success in the previous game, and without an inhibitor or a Baron, these smaller bonuses aren't going to add up to much, and they'll Splyce can capitalize.
Thing is, once you get into these team fights that are set up when you are forced to play around the Baron and potentially around the next few dragons, if you just look at how tanky Wunder's going to be and how much damage Sencux and Kobbe are going to be able to throw out, I even question whether or not H2K could win in these mid to late game team fights.
I have to be careful. Just comparing raw gold values though, the influence of a Karma support later on will be just not as much as what a Tahm Kench can bring to the table in terms of damage now. He has his speed up, but when both teams are just running headfirst into each other, speed doesn't matter that much. Late game, GP and Vladimir can always win a fight.
Yes, but the same is true for the late game Sivir. I mean, it's all going to come down on execution, and while Splyce do have a very good size lead and are in control currently, that can change with a single fight.
And the late game Malzahar, a lot of people don't realize how much damage he can actually do, because the cooldown on his Malefic Vision is surprisingly short, and you can just keep on spamming out those E and Qs.
One layer to this matchup too is that Rio is actually delayed in his late game damage output, because he is forced to build the QSS very early on to get out of that Nether Grasp. So there's all these little things that add up here. Ryu forced to itemize slightly differently. He doesn't hit the spike at the same time. H2K is down 3,000 gold. They may feel like they're farther behind than they are, which obviously plays a large part too. There's this thing, like the gold funnel is also so good for Splyce, because this is on a 1v1 here.
Wunder does so much damage and is denying each and every one of the barrels. He's thinking about going in, does decide to back off with the pressure in the mid lane in favor of Splyce, and Kobbe, has he missed a spell shield yet? Ashe yet to land an arrow.
This is the advantage of the Sivir into Ashe. We talked about how no longer will Splyce have the Tahm Kench available to avoid that Ashe arrow, but it doesn't matter as long as Kobbe is always body blocking it and using that spell shield. The engage from H2K is completely mitigated.
Yeah, and they're being split up here. Divide and conquer is the moniker for Splyce here. Sencux went top, Trashy shadowed bot lane, then returned to mid. Mid lane tower falls. There's still pressure from Wunder in the bot lane. He's waiting for a minion wave. Splyce likely gonna rotate and make a 1-4 setup with Sencux being the split pusher in the top lane.
Odo does have his ultimate available though, so now H2K can send multiple enemies to the bottom half, and if they need help, they can send it to the top.
But there's teleport versus a Vladimir who only has Ghost available here, so if they force the issue, they may have Sencux flank with TP.
Jankos on the way bottom as well. Splyce playing safe. They don't want to give anything up. Mikyx maybe looking for the snare, not going to get too much poke in return. H2K holding on, but Wunder still waiting in the brush, and Dragon is on the way.
Yeah, 20 seconds. They could simply fold back, send Wunder into base on a 60% Gnar bar, and then have him teleport back in. So many options here for Splyce. And H2K not only need to read every single one of them, they need to draft up a reply or fall further behind in gold.
The thing is, I wonder whether or not they want to delay the Dragon, because remember, at 28.5 minutes is when they could actually set up for the Elder Drake to spawn at the 35 rather than another Ocean or Cloud or whatever, the alternative Drake. It looks like that they are going to pick this one up now, so there will be another Dragon on the board, which means that that Elder will be delayed even further.
Yeah, the problem is you don't want to go into Elder with only 2 buffs available to yourself.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only counter to that. There wasn't a large Dragon focus. There isn't really anymore in 6.15. That play used to be valuable when in lane swaps like level 4 Dragons would be picked up, or like 5-minute Dragons, because then teams would stack up to 3 or 4, and if they had an early spike in terms like mid-game spikes, you know, not really late-game teams, they would delay the last Dragon to be killed at 29.01. so then Elder would spawn quicker, but it's not a strategy we see that often anymore. Splyce, honestly, just looking for control. Second Ocean also works, you know, some poke being negated here.
A little bit of extra mana for Sencux as he continues to clear out the waves, continues to pressure on the side. Will make it easier for Trashy to clear out as well. Of course, that Ocean buff always going to be ticking as long as he's just jungling. Excellent place to be thus far, but H2K starting to move into the mid lane. They are spotted out, however.
I actually really like the Haunted guys coming out from Sencux as well. Adds a little bit more magic penetration against the Vladimir and also the very the completed Locket of the Iron Solari too. It is typically seen on a Malzahar, but it just really adds a lot of value when the enemy team is stacking up so much magic with it.
I mean, it almost feels like too late. Whenever I see Haunting guys,
well, the Leandries is what he's going
yeah.
is going to add a lot more value, especially when it does percentage health damage against someone like a Vladimir who will stack that up a lot as well.
Yeah, percentage health is great, but it's such a slow item to build.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Rushing Void Staff is more efficient against large amounts of magic resistance, but he's definitely ahead enough to still build it. Such an item that I hate seeing when Malzahar's fall behind.
Oh yeah. Disgusting. I hate the Rod of Ages Malzahar. Like, what are you trying to prove? Like, you're not a wizard. Stop it.
Alright, rotation from Splyce here. Aggressively taking control. Enemy jungle. 2 deep wards here. They can either choke out H2K and prevent them from placing new wards for like 3 minutes, or they can go and sweep him. There's still a distinct lack of pink wards on Splyce. Seeing a Malzahar walk around with 2 rings in inventory, 1 or 2 pinks out on the map, this is still lacking in Splyce macro, but they actually decide to not give a single damn, and they instantly start Baron here. This may be an opportunity for H2K to strike back, but they have to be quick.
Jankos moving in, Rio waiting for the team before he commits. Inspire, Defiance on the hunt. Splyce are moving in there looking for blood. Flash comes out from Vander. Trashy looking to set up the play.
I don't entirely agree with this play because with Malzahar, they could actually take it down surprisingly quickly. They have a lot of damage and now their priority is going to be on this mid-tier 1.
Pushing in, clearing out the wave. H2K.
They're going for a repeat setup. They just say, okay, we're going to hit your tower once, which means you have to go to mid yourself. Then they go back to Baron. They've choked out Vision, and this time Wunder complete. Playing a roadblock here, speed bump. Gnar needs to stop Jankos from getting in there and going for the 50-50.
Oh, so much damage dropping down onto this Baron. Wunder on the outskirts. Gnar is on the way. H2K arrow finally connects. Mickey in trouble. Jankos goes in. Gangplank all comes down. Wunder makes a beautiful play, but Ryu is in the back line. H2K appear to be taking control, but Wunder is too far ahead. This man is unkillable.
Wunder is playing so well, and the action isn't over yet.
So many members dying. H2K look for the turn. Odoamne is not enough because Kobbe is cleaning house. Malzahar is cutting members down. Splyce are taking control.
BG 1v9, Wunder with the place. It looked so grim because H2K connected and engaged. Found a 3-man knockup, but then Wunder somehow, amongst 4 enemy members of H2K Gaming, takes down Forgiven on his own. This guy solo carried the entire fight.
7, 2, and 5. 3 members of Splyce moving down the lit mid lane, poised to win this game. Getting ready to close this out, and it just gets harder for H2K. The beautiful execution in that fight coming in from Splyce, and more than anything, the beautiful outplay from Wunder.
We cannot praise this man enough. Just keep your eyes on Wunder, because this setup looks awful, but he immediately goes onto the backline, 3-man ultimate. Jankos is forced to disengage because he realizes that there is no team to back him up, and Wunder gets the solo kill down onto Forgiven. And now Splyce have moved back to the Baron.
Rinse and repeat, one more team fight. Mickey caught up. Malzahar ult goes down, trying to keep Jankos out. They just want the Baron. They move in. Gragas gets it in the end, but Jankos is on the front line. He's burning down there. Too many Voidlings. Forgiven in no man's land, and Wunder ready for another kill. Malefic Vision still ticking. Ult comes out. Gangplank, they're just trying to buy time, but it is not enough. Wunder, a hop, a skip, a jump. He makes it out to safety. Sencux going to have to trade his life, but with the Baron down, Splyce still take advantage.
Still was an incredibly sloppy Baron. Both Barons were incredibly sloppy by Splyce. We can't say this enough. Because if in that first clip where we were all hyping up Wunder, Vander actually devours Forgiven, suddenly we see an entirely different team fight. So the team that was so strong on macro is leaving Windows opportunity, but at least they are incredibly decisive and they have faith in their top laner here. Mickey doing his best to peel. Jankos bypassing Sencux. Look at this. Wunder's not even here yet. This is such a greedy Baron, because if Jankos steal this, we look at a match point potentially for H2K. But then they play it out well. Wunder comes in here. Look at how close Forgiven comes to kiting out Wunder here, but there's just so much damage on this guy.
I mean, you can see them trading back and forth, but Wunder just does way too much damage. Sencux, he's left in the pit to fall. I feel like he was actually in a position to get out, but instead he decided to go aggressive. But just to resonate what you were saying earlier on, Krepo, where the actual setup for H2K, they had the numbers advantage. Wunder wasn't even there. He didn't have his teleport. He was in Gnar, and that should have been H2K's Baron to take. At the very least, they should have cleaned up the rest of Splyce, but with a couple of misplays and really bad execution, H2K cannot solidify any real advantage, and Splyce walk away with the Baron.
Wunder had to TP all the way to mid lane to join that fight. Bit messy, but I mean, this is high stakes League of Legends, you know. You can't expect everything to be perfect because there's so much pressure on these guys. Splyce, first playoffs for them. They came from the relegation tournament. They were hyped. They were top 2. Everybody was praising them. G2 versus Splyce, the final in Krakow. It was written in the stars. And then suddenly H2K out of all teams start surging up again. Take them cleanly to a 2-1 victory and force Splyce to react. But they did.
H2K, a team always settling for 3rd and 4th place finishes in the playoffs, determined to find their way into 1st or 2nd, determined to earn themselves a spot in the finals. But Splyce aren't giving up without a fight, and while we can question the decision making, Splyce can take time to look back on that later. They're coming out on top, and for now, that's all that matters.
Regardless of how you look at this, though, H2K, I think that when you look at their history, this has been their best performance, their best playoff performance throughout the LCS. And they are looking to try and turn things around. This game, things are looking a little bit bleak, but there are still rays of hope. Notice that Forgiven, 4 items have been completed on this Ashe. Even though he struggles to go toe-to-toe with Wunder, he can still do a lot of damage to the rest of Splyce. And if he can just get that opportunity, then H2K could find ways back in.
And look at the bright side. Wunder's ran out of item slots. Can't get any stronger.
That is definitely the bright side.
Wunder moving forward, though, doing so much damage, but Forgiven is not scared. Throws out the arrow, focusing attention in multiple places. Gets knocked in the end. Wunder looking for the solo kill. I don't think they have enough damage to take him down. Wunder running through the team. He has to flash out. He's buying time. He's set to fall. One shot from Odoamne, but the GA kicks in. The rest of Splyce, though, forced to back out. Wunder not getting anything else. Can he get the 1v1? Can he get the 1v1? Shot goes in. Shut down onto Wunder.
That's a really good defense by H2K here, and Splyce, they're losing valuable time.
Sencux potentially in trouble. Trashy may have to turn back to support his mid laner.
While all that action was going on, we didn't even notice that Kobbe has fallen, and now H2K want to keep fighting.
Sencux in trouble. Sencux set to fall, trying to bait them back into the team. He's going to make it out. Such a close exchange of spells and abilities.
Yeah, turbo speed up from Mikyx came in. Sencux changed direction, drifted out of there. But that was a really good hold by H2K. I really like the presence of mind for Forgiven to not arrow the guy that is on him. Watch this fight right now. Like, Forgiven's gonna get aggroed by Wunder. So many Ashe players would go for an arrow on the top laner, but instead he tries to help his team. I don't know who it even hits. It may actually hit Kobbe here, which would be quite ironic.
Oh my god. Oh.
Can't see that one coming. Curves the bullet is like Forgiven. Costas Jolie, you know, wanted style. Curves it around the Gragas fat body. Dies doing it. Forgiven became a team player.
That's an LCS big play right there. I mean, we saw the Korean sniper curve the bullet, but I mean, we have our own here in Europe. Really good arrow from Forgiven. And that was almost like a 360 no-scope where he wasn't even looking. He just sort of throws it out. He's like,
I
hey
mean,
guys,
he has been playing a lot of Overwatch in his downtime.
Oh my word.
Hitting up. Accuracy on point, but you can see
I wonder.
It wasn't quite a team fight.
This guy's doing more damage than his entire team combined in that fight. Splyce, get that man a raise.
9-3-6, an all-star performance from Wunder, but they're going to need more than one member performing in these team fights if they want to win out, because H2K are holding on. They're determined not to give it up, and the later we get, the less this gold lead means.
Yeah, and we were joking about it, but like this guy is legit running out of item slots. He might need to replace his GA, but because he's sitting on 1.6k gold, which he's not using.
Oh, arrow connects on the bottom side. Wunder is left all alone. He may be strong, but he's not that strong. Or is he running away? The mini-Gnar speed up. Vander has an acquired taste. You gotta wonder how exactly the Yordle's gonna taste, but they're not gonna find it out. Wunder, once again, 2 members makes it out. 3 members makes it out. The man is unkillable.
Here's the party.
Moving for more. Kobbe on the front line. Suddenly they're in trouble. Spell Shield comes in. Jankos is the one to get locked up, but this is the Sivir. 4 items to cut through the team. Sencux on the backside. Odo dropping down. They are cutting through. H2K. Double kill. Triple kill coming in for Kobbe.
He goes and does it again. The Wunder play out outplaying 3 members of H2K this time, actually forces H2K to overextend and sets up Splyce to get the collapse. They get 3 kills down. That's 40-second death timers. Splyce could very well look to try and end this game.
Yeah, they're looking to run it down mid here. Sencux catching the minions. We're looking at 30 seconds death timers, 25 on Vander here, 5v2. Given, it's gonna need more arrows than 1 to stop this push here, but the minions ever so slowly. This is when you hate Riot for not making minions just a little bit faster.
Timer counting down. Wunder goes in his last seconds of Gnar. Ryu locked up is going to be able to pull, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to save him. Trashy knocks Forgiven back. The defense has been stalled out by the side of Splyce. H2K running out of options. Their base is falling apart. They're too busy killing Trashy. Mikyx comes in. Ryu set to fall. It may not be enough. Splyce, Wunder, who else to finish it out? Who else to take it to a game 5? Splyce, bring it back.
Wow, what a game.
What a game. These two teams, we thought that it was going to be a close series. A lot of predictions on the analyst desk for all 5 games. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got it.
Yeah, just, I always feel like I'm such a negative Nancy, but when I see that Baron from Splyce, I'm like, phew, this macro team that could have just closed it out cleanly, they leave it open, but that's actually, it's in those moments that the best narratives get born, because Wunder put in a tricky position by his team, completely outplaying their 1v, like literally 1v9.
We're criticizing macro play, but for Wunder, it came down to micro play. The man was unstoppable, dodging everything, knocking people back, taking people on, 2v1, 3v1, solo killing Forgiven, even in the face of a Tahm Kench.
And it's so deceptive. When this tiny little cute furball just gets 2 items under his belt, he suddenly becomes this relentless killing machine that it finds it so easy to just dive onto the backline. And Vander, in all fairness to him, there were many times where he tried to peel for Forgiven, but it just wasn't enough because of the amount of stickiness and damage that Wunder was able to throw out.
Yeah, he definitely needed to devour in that instance, and we need to look at what is H2K going to do in the final draft. Like, they've had a little bit of leeway right now, being up 2-1 in the series. I'm not getting emotional, my throat is just dry. But, like, do they deal with the Gnar? Like, because when I now see the counterpoint in the matchup, when GP doesn't spiral ahead of the Gnar, Gnar is still going to push it in.
Yeah. And we just have to wonder how it's going to evolve. We saw Taliyah taken off the table. Will Gnar be the next thing to change in this pick ban?
Over Bard, I definitely think so. Like, this Bard man is completely wasted.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a tie on our hands. 2 games apiece for H2K and Splyce. And to break down game 4, let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you, and we're just going to talk more about Wunder and Gnar because, man, was that an all-star performance. And Krepo said during, I think, the first Baron fight, Wunder solo carried the entire fight, but the thought here was more Wunder solo carried that entire game. Yes or no, Max?
I gotta agree with that one. I mean, he got the first kill due to the Gragas gank, and then after that he just snowballed out of control. And I think he played the map really good, and his team, as well as him, played really well around this Gnar bar, and he forced so many plays. Like, this looked really in favor of H2K, then the Gnar comes in, and then everything is over, you know? And then in that Baron fight, he just literally 1v9'd it, as everyone is saying. And then he baited the enemy team by going to 200 HP at that last fight, TPing back in, and then closing out the game. Like, that was insane. Outsmarted, just, he's insane.
It was absolutely beautiful to see, but as you say, not to tunnel entirely on just Wunder, even though it is very tempting at this point. Reckless, you were saying, well, they have evolved in their picks and bans. That Gnar, we know that they want to pick that, but now they've also put in some late game scaling with the Malzahar and the Sivir, and it seems that this way, with this win, Splyce has put themselves in a fantastic position going into a game 5.
Yeah, I guess the general pattern in this series so far is that H2K is winning out in the early game and Splyce is taking more control later on. And it only makes sense that they're drafting more around their own winning conditions. And I think bringing in the Sivir and Malzahar instead of Taliyah and Jhin is definitely giving you more chances of winning out in the later stages. But my general feeling actually watching these games is that all across the board is quite even, and it's actually being decided by the top lane. When I watched the first games, I didn't really think that like the Gnar first pick was that good, but the later the series went, the more and more convinced I got, and I feel like at this point they actually have to take it out and force Wunder on something else. But you never really know either what he has planned, because throughout the split he's played so many things, and he was like even the one who started blind picking Fiora against us in later stages, so I think he has other things planned out. So it's going to be really interesting to see what direction the draft takes.
And that's one thing we were kind of theory crafting a little bit on, is you know, Krepo said get rid of the Bard because he doesn't feel like it's particularly, you know, strong on its own. We were talking about the possibility of the Aurelion Sol. If it's one of those things where it's like, well, we suspect Sencux plays Aurelion Sol, but we can't be certain, and it's a very different play style. So there are a couple of options if H2K do want to change their draft, but it certainly looks like Splyce have painted them into a bit of a corner with this Gnar first rotation.
And not a big surprise, I just heard that Splyce has picked red side for that game. It is all planned, so there's so many of these little things that now come to haunt, probably especially after going through the full 4 games, like the Sivir ban the first games from Splyce. What was that all about? Was that just unnecessary, as you called it, or is that also part of the plan?
Well, maybe you want to take this one since you...
Nah, it's all
okay,
good,
so well, I'm going to give you the credit. So Max said that, as he said before, like the triangle of Gnar, RekSai, and Talia was kind of maybe putting them in a situation where they felt like if they don't ban the Sivir, they won't be able to pick it up themselves, and H2K will take it in their second rotation. But with Talia feeling, I guess, less and less valuable, and maybe them realizing that they should be drafting for the late game, opening Sivir instead of the Talia made a lot more sense. And I think we'll see something similar in this game, and maybe even H2K realized by now, and they will open the Aurelion Sol and instead ban the Gnar, which is what I hope they will do, because I don't think it will like play in Splyce's favor to pick up the Aurelion Sol. I think they should much rather go for a champion like the Vladimir or the Malzahar that give them like the priority in the later stages.
Completely agree on the Malzahar. Through this game, you know, we were talking and I was like, this is the Splyce from week 8.
Yeah.
Teleport Malzahar. They got Sivir with Gragas and Karma in the middle lane. Never going to catch them without some perfect engage. So Splyce looked very, very comfortable on what we praised them for the entire end of the split. So if they get this draft again, I think Splyce may very well be able to close this series, but I'm so glad it's gone to 5.
Yeah, I think we're all very happy that it's gone to 5 games. As we see the teams discussing there, they do get a bit more time before a deciding game 5. Max, you were saying also in this game, this last game specifically, Trashy just did a lot more than in the previous games. And let's talk a bit about Jankos versus Trashy in this entire series, as we also saw it at the top of the show, because it seems that that influence from Tuesday versus you guys, it's not the same game here for Jankos. It isn't as easy after that game 1 for him to kind of make his mark all over the map, or am I seeing that wrong?
Well, I'd say, for example, the first game of the series today, Jankos punished top lane really hard. And I think Jankos is pretty good at punishing mistakes. However, this game, Jankos went for the level 3 bot gank. Splyce saw it. They saw it was telegraphed, and they just played defensively. Then they took the crab, like Trashy contested. He had pressure in both mid and bot. I think just Splyce had pressure in all 3 lanes, and they had a weaker jungler. But because they played safe, it kind of neutralized Jankos' whole playstyle. And once he fell behind, and they have a late game comp with this whole, they have pressure and late game, so there was really nothing Jankos can do.
What do you think about him not going for the Titanic Hydra anymore on RekSai? Is that something you've tried yourself lately, or do you think it's just not the way to play the champion?
I think Tiamat at least is pretty cool because it helps you farm faster, so therefore you can do more because you're done clearing your camp, so you can force a specific play without losing anything on the other side of the map. So you take your bot side camps, you do something top side, enemy jungler goes bot side, takes nothing from you, you know?
Yeah.
And you can do that a lot more faster, and you can counter jungle more. You kind of play RekSai like you would Nidalee. You just completely stomp the enemy jungler, but he's not doing this, and he's being pretty useless mid-late because he's just like a tank that has 1 CC and then does almost no damage. And
maybe it's...
I don't know, you're just helping Sivir do damage to your backline by letting her hit you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Mind games complete there from the side of Splyce. Predictions, just to remind everybody, at the beginning of the show, you went for Splyce, you guys went for H2K, and you said even 3-0 or 3-2, so you're completely on track for that one. So after, oh, you're jumping ship.
Do you know, I'm saying, do you two want this one, or do you want to join me over with this?
Yeah, do you guys want to change your vote from H2K to Splyce or not?
Like, I'll leave the H2K there for you if any of you want it, but there's a Splyce one.
We also have another
Of
one.
course.
You want the Splyce one now?
No.
Oh.
So what I want to say is this is the 5th game right now, okay? And because it's the 5th game, it's going to be insane clown fiesta with how tired everyone is, and Jankos is going to solo carry every lane.
Okay.
Deadpan into the camera. All right, on that note, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have the final deciding game in the semi-final between Splyce and H2K. Don't touch that browser.
My dear coachy!
I'm glad to hear your voice.
I'm glad to hear your voice, Mr. Trolley. Your voice is like music to my ears.
Odo walking to Trashy. This is big actually for this game.
Happen. Looking for the knockback. Is going to get it. Odo is in trouble. It looks like he is now set to fall. Will drop to Wunder. First blood. Not waiting as long as we thought as Wunder starts to get aggressive. Hyper. That proc was massive. Jankos now taking so much damage. Wunder, he doesn't even care. He's going for more. Double kill. He'll gladly trade his life for that.
Yeah. You can win. Jip it. He's dead, I think. Jip it over. Oh, can we Ashe?
Nice. This is the Sivir. 4 items to cut through the team. Sencux on the backside. Odo dropping down. They are cutting through. H2K. Double kill. Triple kill. Who else to finish it out? Who else to take it to a game 5? Splyce, bring it back.